That's the internet. Like, you're on the internet, folks. This is what happens.
If you even have to get a MetaMask wallet, we've already lost.
Crypto, DeFi, it's awesome for the edge curves of the barbell for users of money. So I think Telegram is really interesting. We're not done until we've got billions of people on chain and trillions of assets on chain.
No company has been more pivotal in pushing crypto forward than Coinbase. One arm of crypto is Coinbase Ventures, led by Hoolie Tejwani. We had an amazing conversation about all of the things that are being built in crypto, when we actually may see them come to fruition, and what it's going to take to get to mainstream adoption. You don't want to miss this conversation with one of crypto's greatest visionaries.
That's dope.
I want to start with the most exciting topics first. What's exciting you right now in crypto?
Oh, where to begin? I think 2025 is going to be a pretty epic year across everything in crypto. Couple areas. So one, stablecoins. Whenever someone asks me, like, what's the use case for crypto, I kind of just laugh and say, go talk to someone in Kenya who's moving through a tremendous amount of friction to get access for stablecoins. I think we're at a point where it's very clear that is a 10 to 100x penetration wave we're gonna be riding. We were investors in Bridge, which was acquired by Stripe. We recently announced investment in BVNK, and so the original kind of thesis around crypto starting to eat traditional financial system, it's happening. And so that's a big area. Second, where I'm spending a lot of time and the team's spending a lot of time, is around intersection of crypto and AI. AI is just this massive paradigm shift that's going to engulf everything. But we're already seeing, if you go to that truism of where the really smart hackers and builders spending their nights and weekends, a lot of them are focused on this intersection point. It's going to be wonderful and weird. It's hard to predict how it's all going to shape out, but that's one big area. And then third, I'd say we're finally at a point, if we think about these crypto cycles, the kind of Carletta Peretz framework of, you have the big, speculative runs where a lot of infrastructure gets built out up and down. We've gotten through all these waves now where all the pieces of the stack for truly internet scale blockchain applications are here. We're at that convergence point. And so the design space around on-chain consumer applications, whether it's gaming or SocialFi, there's a lot of really interesting experimentation there. So I think we'll see a bunch of breakout kind of viral apps in that. So those are kind of like three big buckets, but plenty more.
Yeah, that's been one of the sort of paradigm shifts of the last few years that I noticed as well, is that we had this panic in 18, 19, 20, 21 even, where we said, there's so many things that are being built, there's not enough block space. Now it seems like we have infinite block space and chains and need to actually fill them with some apps that are actually adopted by the mainstream or gain some traction. So I guess you mentioned a few sort of verticals there. I think we all know DeFi will happen in some, maybe on one chain will be a DeFi chain. I don't know. NFTs, I'm sure will happen. I'm sure the metaverse will come back around. We know that AI, we have all these different verticals. Which ones do you think may actually see some meaningful traction, if we're assuming this 4-year cycle exists, but in this cycle, in the coming 2 to 3 years, let's call it?
Yeah, I'd kind of bring it back to some of those earlier points. So on the stablecoin, like traditional payments side of things, I think by the end of this cycle, we're going to see a lot of applications where people are interacting. They don't even know that blockchain and crypto is in the back, and will just penetrate whatever amount of GDP in the world is going through Stripe and like the traditional pen and paper payment systems. Well, we're already seeing real traction there. It'll continue to scale. It's hard to put a finger on particular use cases beyond that. DeFi for sure will continue to go, and with the cheaper block space and what the friction points that have kind of held it back in the past are being alleviated. There's a clear use case there. I came to crypto and around Bitcoin. I think the store value thesis is as sound as ever. I think this will be the year where we start increasing institutional adoption, but also the sovereign, like sovereign game theoretic side of Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset has like legs. Couple ideas. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I definitely think on the Bitcoin side that we've kind of reached exit velocity as far as adoption, right? That's the first. And the game theory, as you mentioned, if we get a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States, or even continue to have the rhetoric of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I think people are underestimating. Just if the United States puts it on the balance sheet, everybody literally has to put it on the balance sheet. So I don't even know what a world of Bitcoin price looks like if that happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a very rapid trip to $1 million, right? And I don't think that's as hyperbolic as it sounds, but it depends on that happening. I have always said, just like you did, that stable coins are the killer app for crypto. Bitcoiners hate that because I think there's some irony in dollarized, and tokenized dollars being the thing that we use when you're supposed to buy Bitcoin as a hedge against the dollar. But I am still curious as to how that shakes out, because you might have some deeper thoughts, especially sort of with the regulatory regime likely changing, legislation being more likely with the incoming administration, because it felt for a while like Tether might end up on the outs in the United States, but Hal Lutnick's an owner of Tether and is the Secretary of Commerce, so I think that's less likely. So I just don't know who wins or how many stable coins we can have. It seems like now we're getting stable coins launched on a weekly basis, and that hype is kind of confusing to me. I mean, I think they'll be used, but I think there'll be one or two massive stable coins that dominate the world, Yeah,
it's definitely like an interesting kind of even strategic question to think about how the stablecoin landscape moves forward. There's something to be said about the power of liquidity, and liquidity begets liquidity, and so there will be a couple standards. There's also a world where these things are fungible and they're programmatic, and every merchant can launch their own like white label stablecoin, and we see thousands, billions of them in different flavors and formats. With like pending regulatory like clarity, I think things around how you can do like on-chain treasuries and some of the RWA side of things start becoming interesting. That's pretty gated right now until that side clears up.
How optimistic are you that our pie in the sky vision of what the world's going to look like in the United States as far as legislation, regulation is actually going to play out? Because I think that there's many who think we're so optimistic that we're going to end up disappointed. That maybe because we're in our echo chamber, it feels like the most important thing that's going to be legislated, but we might get sort of left out on the sidelines in that first 100 days.
Yeah, I think Brian RCO has a quote that I've really internalized. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. And you go through these phases of euphoria and despair, and it's like a elastic band that you lose all the elastic and just stay zen through it. I'd say I'm optimistic things are going to be much more constructive. I mean, we're coming out of a period where we had this not principled regulation by enforcement. Basically, like gaslighting is not a workable regulatory strategy, period. And crypto's persisted, right? It's yes, we've seen developers like shift from the US offshore. There's like pretty convincing data around that. But it can only get better. I think all we need is just like constructive engagement and clear rules of the road. No one is saying don't regulate the space. It's just provide constructive regulation that can actually deter bad actors, enable good actors and innovation. I don't, with DC and politics, like I try not to over index on like what will get done, what can't get done. There's such a process there. But the tone is certainly much more constructive.
I was gonna say, I think that's actually what matters, right? I mean, the feeling that you can actually do things when you didn't think you could before is all that matters, because all those companies that were afraid to do anything in the United States maybe won't be for a while, and we'll start to sort of see innovation come back. I just interviewed Raoul Pal, and he had a really interesting take on the election. He basically said it wasn't as much Democrat as Republican as it looked, but it was actually the technologists finally stepped in and won. Like there was this just huge wave of anti-entrepreneurship and anti-tech in the United States. And Brian, Coinbase, and others were forced to step in and do their part and win and make sure that, America remains ahead. You're at Coinbase Ventures, obviously, right? So this meaningfully impacts you. I would imagine as an investor, I'm assuming working with and consulting to startups that you invest in, having an active role in how they proceed. This seems like the biggest shift there could be, regardless of, like I said, what those actual laws end up being. The fact that people aren't scared to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, it definitely impacts in a very positive way. Like ultimately, we're doing early stage venture, and we're driven by great, exceptional founders and the technology. And if you have an environment where the talent is deterred from working on the technology, that is a big, limiting reagent. Having that flip to the other side, where we're already seeing quality, really high quality builders and engineers who would have been kind of staying away from crypto because of just the narrative around it, especially coming out of kind of that post FTX period, are warming back up, and it's a safe place to build, and that just catalyzes the formation rate and how many opportunities, how many ideas are being pursued, and folks don't need to think about domiciling in other geographies and can build in the US. But zooming out, crypto is so global, and candidly, other jurisdictions, like the US is behind. Like there are other hubs that are ahead. So I think the genie's out of the bottle. The progress is going to continue. Now, hopefully, we're in a place where the U.S. can catch up a bit and play the role it should play, which is be the home for the innovators, attract builders that have all the economic output and value here in our tax base.
I have no idea how much you travel, but in the context of how many things aren't being built in the United States, I would imagine you spend quite a bit of time in Dubai, Singapore, and other friendlier jurisdictions that you're alluding to. Maybe you'll get to travel less now. Maybe we'll just get to stay home and take meetings, around the country.
Yeah, fortunately, post COVID, we can do a lot with the norms on a Zoom like this. But we're happy to invest wherever the builders are. India has a tremendous amount of incredible Web3 or on-chain talent. I'll get on a call with anyone, anywhere, any time zone, but happy to have coffee with someone down the street too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious how much deal flow you're seeing, how many projects are pitching you on a regular basis, and how much that's fluctuated through the more bullish and bearish cycles over the past few years. A lot of people actually sort of joke that actually everything's built in the bear market. And all the builders love the bear market because you're not influenced by price and community and hype. You can just put your head down. And then that all gets lost in the bull market when tokens start popping 100x's left and right.
It's a great question. I think about a lot. I think about it as we're looking for missionaries, not mercenaries. When we're in the euphoric phases, that ratio skews for sure. Volume on pipeline and deal flow, I would say right now is feeling kind of where it was going into 2021. So, mark to market where we are in the cycle. In the bears, it's just much easier to spot the missionaries because they're the folks who stick around and have big ideas.
Because they're actually there. They exist.
And you can filter on it comes down to intrinsic motivations. Are you doing this because it's intrinsically it's a get rich quick motivation, or are you trying to build something that's going to change the world and millions of people are going to use, and we're going to move trillions of dollars of capital? So yeah, some of our investments great. We've had great performing investments across all cycles. It's just it's easier to filter in the bears, and you just got to keep the signal to noise filter being much more just a higher filter range in the euphoric times.
But numbers, sheer quantity, 100 projects a month, 1,000 projects a month. I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine if you count all the random DMs on X or, I see them, that just how many there are and how you filter them, what the process is, where something finally reaches your desk and you take a serious look at it.
Yeah. I don't have really strong, I just anecdotally, we're in those 100,000 like zones for sure. There, in terms of how like we think about filtering, one, there's just like certain categories that we're more excited about or less excited about. A lot of it comes out to idea too. Like there's incremental things, which is like, okay, the next nth derivative of this primitive that's already been done. But a lot of it's founder, like a lot of it's just talent, like the talent founder base and getting to know the folks, even if they're anonymous devs that I can only talk to with through a JPEG. What have they done before? Why are they doing this? And that motivation piece is like a huge filter.
I want to go back to the intersection between crypto and AI. I think you guys are relatively outspoken that that's a key focus. And you said that sort of first in the beginning after stablecoins. This is one of those where it seems like there's a lot of hype and a lot of nonsense. It almost feels like when, Long Island blockchain iced tea, like just put AI in the name and your token can go up 50x, even if it's not very key part of crypto cycles. But you obviously believe that there's something deeper that's there and being built. Curious where the signal is and how we cut through the noise, because most of what I've seen actually pop off when people are looking at prices has been noise, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think kind of the benefit of my seat is I honestly don't look at prices. Like I'm thinking in like 5-10 year time horizon. So what the latest meta or the latest kind of like crypto Twitter narrative is, I can kind of ignore a lot of that. And
it's Fartcoin, in case you were wondering. As we speak, it's Fartcoin.
I imagine it's going to go up in a lot of Christmas table conversations. It's definitely experimentation zone. The way I think about it is there's one side of, okay, if this agentic kind of path to general AGI, if we all believe we're on that, crypto and blockchain is like just a very natural complement to how that actually gets delivered and scaled to the world in a way that we actually want to consume it. Like, do we want a single central point owning, controlling every single aspect of our lives in terms of our data, or do we want users to have like self-sovereignty over their data? Do we want all the like the AI side technology is so centralizing and as like a force that it needs this natural complement in terms of delivery. We're going to need, and all these unsolved problems, like we're going to pretty soon need like a proof of humanity capability, right? Like, how do I know I'm even talking to you right now versus your
avatar? Yeah, I'm deep faking you.
Yeah, well, maybe I signed before I got on here on my phone, and that a human with this thumbprint is actually who you're talking to. So those are like, and then actually delivering the compute, delivering these AI models in like different ways, and then on where all the kind of the narrative energy right now is like, okay, now we've got these like really smart AI agents and they're acting on chain. And back to your earlier question, like,
wild,
where's the block space demand going to come from? Like, I think 99% of it is actually going to be agentic and AI driven in not too short of a time. But it's experimentation, but there's really interesting things happening. I think both sides have like long-term durability, but it's early. Let me make it clear. It's like very early.
Yeah, the agents, I'm not quite sold yet. I know that is absolutely the future. I agree with you, but this first iteration seems like it's just a guy behind a keyboard trolling us on X through his agent, right? And maybe that's not the case, but that's sort of what it feels like. At least they're kind of a remote control car, that somebody's behind and pulling the strings. But to your point, I mean, if we all have agents that are going to effectively manage our lives and do everything for us, they're going to need to transact with one another. And so that seems like the most natural one to me. And then the one you said, which is proof of humanity, right? And I think there's actually some interesting protocols that are doing real things there. I don't know if they're just the first iteration or if there will be others, but those seem like the most natural fits. But I'm sure there's exponentially more that I'm not even thinking about.
Yeah, you raise a really good point around like this agentic economy. So I believe a meaningful amount of GDP is going to be flowing and being bartered through agent systems and agent networks. And if that is true, it makes sense to like internet native money, blockchain, everything we've done in crypto is the substrate for that to happen. Like an agent cannot go through KYC and get a bank account, but it can hit an API that is,
and I don't want them with my American Express card and like open access without a cap, right? So,
right, but then once you give agents wallets and their own ability, it's like how much agency does the agent have? If the agent can make financial decisions and has different optimization functions, this is like back to like the wonderful and weird world where a lot of interesting experimentation happening. I think stablecoins, crypto, the blockchain rails are going to be a big part of it. Maybe not all of it, but it just makes sense that agentic GDP is flowing on chain.
How is TradFi going to deal with agents? Let's say even outside of crypto existing and proving humanity and transacting and the things we know that are coming with it, if that did not exist and AI was still obviously proliferating and becoming, I don't even understand how this would work with traditional rails. They've got to be terrified.
And I think that's why you see a lot of we've gone through in the crypto space, we've gone through our regulatory challenges and education challenges, and you see the same kind of reflex reaction from the powers that be around AI, because it's going to be very disruptive. It's going to challenge a lot of the assumptions and gatekeeping systems. I don't have an answer on how they're going to handle it, but I suspect cybersecurity departments in every institution that we interact with are going to be very, very busy and critical places.
It's been interesting to me seeing the rise of AI and how much the narratives, the negative narratives, echo those that we heard in the earlier days in Bitcoin, and not even that long ago, but boiling the oceans and using as much electricity as all of Venezuela or Argentina or whatever it is. It's almost like they've boilerplated the same stories that they had to try to kill Bitcoin in the early days for AI now. But maybe that's less of a topic with this new regime coming in than it would have been, I guess, if the old administration had continued, because it seemed like there was a whole arm of that administration that was anti-all tech, but certainly anything advancing like this, crypto and AI.
Yeah. And I mean, on the human level, on balance, I get it that change is scary. And the idea of Bitcoin originally, it's threatening to powers that be. And the idea of AI is threatening if you are in the control structure, thinking through how you're going to adjust. If your impulse is to control, and there's this technology that is going to reduce your control, I get the psychology around it. But the first principle, it just comes out of first principles thinking. And I don't know how you want to label the techno progressive. I just believe we're on these secular technology change curves, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
You can't stop it. Yeah.
I'd rather reason through how does it manifest in a way that's productive for society versus that impulse of it's threatening to me, I'm going to try to squash it.
You can't. And so obviously DeFi, another area that you guys have historically been very active in, I think Uniswap, Aave, right? I mean, the biggest sort of protocols that have existed, you were very early on and behind. Do you think that those are going to be the ones that continue to win and build through new cycles? Or do you think that we're going to see sort of replacements, especially I was pitched an AI exchange. Somebody was telling me about this week that said everybody has their agent, they're in there, there's full order books and liquidity, and we never trade again, right? I mean, that's DeFi to some degree, right? I mean, the things that I'm hearing could happen are crazy, but you also see a massive sort of more volume and interest coming to the dinosaurs.
Yeah. I love DeFi because it's just the best experimentation zone. There is, I think, an incumbency advantage for once you're an established protocol, you've been bulletproof tested, you've gone through all the smart contract attack vectors, et cetera, and you've just kind of become the platform. But there's constant innovation. One of our investors, Moonwell, is doing super interesting things. And I think UX and usability is a big thing for this cycle. My Moonwell card is great. I don't want to sell my Bitcoin, but I want to be able to borrow against it for debit and pay. like that flow for a real user, like I can finally see like my brother-in-law can like get value out of this, and it's not the small pool of on-chain kind of hardcore folks. But that said, like the amount of capital in DeFi, it's still like a in the global like
Drop in the
scale.
bucket.
It's a niche kind of hobbyist world. As the institutional like big pools of capital can unlock and get on, that's where there'll be an incumbency advantage, but there's still just a ton of opportunity for shaping that and being the pipes and rails for that.
I think that people view DeFi through somewhat different lenses, right? They're kind of the original people that said it'll wholesale replace TradFi. Like there would be no more TradFi, everything will be on chain, decentralized. And then I think there's maybe a more pragmatic view that it'll sort of be a parallel system for those who maybe are a little more willing to take risk, or who just don't have access to that system at all. I mean, you talked about it at the beginning, even just with stable coins. I mean, good luck sending somebody $5 in Nigeria from here, right? You're not going to wire it to them and pay $15 and wait 3 weeks for the banks to clear it. I mean, do you think that what's being built in DeFi now, I guess, how do you take that view? Do you think that it eventually does replace the existing systems? Do you think that it becomes a tool that they use, or do you think that it becomes sort of a separate parallel system?
I think it's that middle lane where you've got a crypto economy, you've got a traditional like pre-crypto economy, and I don't think everything on one side goes all over to crypto, but there's just that nexus point of the two just grows and grows and grows. Yeah, definitely on that middle lane. Like there's always going to be Balaji Srinivasan, who was our CTO, and I joined. He had this really good framework of like crypto, DeFi. It's awesome for the edge curves of the barbell for users of money. So like power users of money, this is 10x, 100x better. The disenfranchised, you're not served by the financial system, this is 10, 100x better. Now it's like the shape of that curve is like converging. So you're getting more and more into the 80% zone of the bell curve, where it's like, okay, this is 5x better because than what the replacement. But that's how I think about it. Like, is this 5 or 10x better than the alternative, and how much of that surface area are we progressing towards? And it's a forward progression. I don't think it's ever going to be like 100%. Like there will be certain things that just don't make sense to do in DeFi and on chain, but it's going to be a bigger area of the curve.
It is pretty wild to hear Larry Fink talking about tokenizing all assets, though, right? Because it's accelerated faster than I anticipated, I guess, in this cycle. I would say actually at the beginning it was slower than I thought, right? Which is, I think, a natural human tendency. You think everything is going to happen, but once it does, I think we also underestimate how parabolic it can go.
That's right.
I mean, it's been now over a year since BlackRock's paper, where everybody focused on the Bitcoin side, but the other side that nobody talks about was literally tokenizing everything. They're tokenizing BITL. I mean, it's actually happening. It hasn't gained any sort of, meaningful traction, a few $1 billion, again, a drop in the bucket, but these are the largest financial institutions in the world that are playing in this sandbox now.
Right. And that's what feels so different this cycle than last cycle, is that audience was either disengaged or just skeptical. And now there's every day just more believers, and they see the potential, they see the benefit, they're getting involved. And again, we'll keep looping back onto regulatory, but as there are more clear, workable regulatory frameworks around all of this, that just becomes a huge unlocking catalyst. Like the interest is there. Corporates adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, like that's happening. Like it's all there. It's hard for me to predict when does the parabolic moves happen, but the potential is there once some of those gates are restricted or moved off.
Specifically at Coinbase Ventures, it seems like you have sort of a different mandate than a lot of other VCs. I mean, obviously, like there's a wide spread of how VCs approach this market, from those who are pretty much just want to see, crypto and blockchain proliferate and be successful, and are willing to sort of take it on the chin no matter what they need to do to make that happen. And then there's the other side that's just taking as many tokens they can, not helping the project at all, and dumping immediately on every single unlock, right? So I'm assuming there's a sliding scale in between. But it seems to me, at least from the outside, that Coinbase Ventures has been a bit more concerned with pushing forward an open financial system than with immediate profit. Is that a fair framing?
Yeah, it comes back to time horizon. Like we're long-term greedy, not playing the short-term games. And yeah, maybe it's helpful to just kind of step through like the origin, like history. So like Coinbase Ventures started really as an experiment. It was a blog post that Emily put out, about half a dozen folks around the company just working on it, like nights and weekends, like kind of volunteering. And the whole mandate was just back rate builders who are pushing the state of the art for the crypto economy forward. And we've just kept that ethos from the beginning. We do, we are operating with, financial ROI mindset, but on a venture scale time horizon. And so we're trying to, we're helping seed the ecosystem. I'd say the ecosystem now has been seeded and is much more mature and from when we started. But yeah, we're not playing short-term games. Like, and it's a very like non-zero sum mindset. We've really broad mandate. We'll invest in things that from the outside in, people will be like, I get questions like, isn't that competitive Coinbase? I'm like, great. That's the point. We're trying to build an entire ecosystem here.
That was actually
short-term games.
Completely my next question direction that I want to go in. So I'm glad that you said that, right? I think, I mean, anyone who's in technology knows that eventually you'll get disrupted, right? We all know what the top 20 companies in the world were in 2000, not the same as 2024, right? So anyone who doesn't innovate eventually dies. But you guys have been very quick to disrupt yourselves. And not necessarily Coinbase Ventures, but Coinbase, right, launching Base and pushing towards decentralization and Web3 wallets, really walking the walk of, using the technology. But obviously the core business, you're still custodying the ETFs and you still have spot trading and, by the billions a day. I guess that aligns with what you're saying about Coinbase Ventures, is that you're willing to disrupt yourselves to push this forward. It's a really interesting place to be, I think, as a company.
Yeah, and I really credit like Brian, Fred, like all the OGs at Coinbase that like have instilled this DNA of we're not playing the zero sum game, and we've got this like broader kind of abundancy mindset. Rising tide lifts all boats, and Coinbase is, I think, a lot of very key decisions in how the company's been built. Like we've always taken this longer term approach. Like we're going to go work with regulators, be trusted, be compliant, like not optimize for like the short term win. And so when you've got that, like kind of, I feel like I'm part of building like a generational platform and company. And so when you've got that type of like stewardship mindset, then it's not that hard to make the next leap of, okay, if this entire ecosystem grows and benefits, we don't know how it's all going to work out. Like Base started as like, I was around when Jesse was first kind of thinking through the ideas, and from where it started to where it ended, like it was an experiment. Same thing with USDC. Like, so the rate of change is so fast that if you take like the Harvard Business School, like this is your strategy playbook, and apply all that stuff, like, just lean into the innovator's dilemma. Like, you're going to have to disrupt yourself. And part of that is like, invest in things that could be disruptive to you.
I'm thinking back to the launch of Base. Like I wasn't that involved, but I remember that like you couldn't really get money in and out. It was sort of like an experiment. And there was this meme coin called Bald that was going crazy based on Brian's head. I mean, crypto is so ridiculous, right? You're building something very serious. But of course, that's the way that the interest is peaked in the community.
That's an open permissionless platform. It's going to bring a lot of irreverence, and it comes back to that control function. But I view all that stuff as like, it's awesome. It's creativity. Like people, the internet gaming culture, meme culture, it's expressions of creativity. And I try not to place like any value judgments on this is on brand, this is off brand. Like we're building this for everyone, and if folks want to do Bald, I joke with my team, we have like an internal goal. I'm like, if we hit it this year, like I'm gotta be Bald to be Base. So I'm going to shave my head. Like it just becomes part of the culture too, and like the story.
I mean, how do you frame this absolute explosion in meme coins then? Because it really has. There was almost this moment here for the last year where there's plenty of things being built, but it felt like it was a Bitcoin and meme coin barbell, and there was kind of nothing in between. Like digital gold on one side, full speculation on the other, and nobody interested in anything in between.
Yeah. You know, I could really like over into like, well, a couple ways to break it down. First of all, like why is this happening? What's new and what's different? Like, I think memes have been around as long as humans have been around. Internet memes have been around as long as the internet's been around. Meme coins have been around as long as Doge. Like this is just like human behavior and what happens. Why this cycle? There's been so much more meme coin activity. Couple drivers. One, the enabling infrastructure's made it so it's just basically zero cost to launch a coin, right? And it's basically infinite user generated content. It's inherently social. It's like a social money game people are playing with their friends, and it goes viral. It has that capability built in. And then on the flip, because of the regulatory environment, it was like, okay, this is what
not a security.
It's totally, it makes no sense, but yeah, this is what you can do. I view it as like, again, it comes back to like that creativity, like user generated content expression mode, where it's like a new form of like monetized attention, and it's irreverent, and things will come and things will go. And, I'm going to have to answer Thanksgiving questions about Farcoin, which I don't really want to do, but that's the internet. Like you're on the internet, folks. This is what happens.
I agree with that. Do you have a traditional VC background?
I do have a traditional VC. I've kind of a crazy mixed background. I've spent some time in Hollywood. We've worked in traditional VC. I was at Bain and Company.
I would say that counts.
Yeah. But got orange pilled relatively early and have been pretty focused on crypto for a while.
But it just sounds like the way that you frame Coinbase Ventures is more how a traditional VC would look at their investments than a crypto VC would look at their investments, which is this may take 10 years till we even are liquid. Right. So that just seems like that's the approach.
Yeah. Long-term mindset. We're not a hedge fund. We're not a trading shop. We're not mercenary about it. And that's kind of benefit of the setup and kind of having long-term capital to deploy.
Maybe AI is one of the answers, but is there anything that you're seeing really early iterations of that we may not know that could be the narratives of, a few years down the road, or that could be the next cycle thing? I mean, in crypto, we always have this thing where we get really excited about something and then it really happens 3 years later, right? But is there anything that you're seeing that might not be on people's radar that you're excited about?
So a couple. So you hit it on AI. I do think there's going to be like an AI influencer that every kind of creator, just like a character that millions and billions of people are interacting with, and it's that expression of like the TikTok ice cream so good thing, but to the like next level. I think Telegram is really interesting, and what Telegram is a distribution platform, Tom blockchain, especially. I'm US based. So I'm always challenging like the US centric mindset, and so then when you go talk to folks in other geos, like that's just an interesting substrate for where like developer activity is happening. And then gaming, like there's gaming is real. Like someone on my team is like really hooked on Off the Grid, which is like, I think the like AAA game that
Gunzilla is amazing. It finally happened. Like it's not getting as much attention as I think it should, but last cycle we were sort of like, we either need a AAA game that kind of has crypto in it and nobody knows about it, or we need Fortnite to add NFTs or something. It happened. Like this is a blockchain native game that is fully AAA, amazing, and when you play it, you have no idea.
Right. Yeah. And I think it'll be both. But we've now got proof points that both can happen. People place value judgments on like speculation, and speculation can be bad. It can be good. Like I take a view like speculation is just a part of reality, and it's how it is just like an intrinsic human behavior. This cycle, what I'm looking for is like where can the speculative hook to come in the door translate to some longer like more enduring. If you go through like the seven deadly sin framework. Like, where is this hitting pride or greed or like other things, so that folks show up and stay engaged and form like daily habits outside of price go up. That's just a mental framework I have. But yeah, I think we've covered. I can't predict the future. I let our whole mentality is like, the founders we're meeting are telling us the future. They're the ones who have it, and so I'm kind of guided by where they're taking us.
In your mind, where does building on Bitcoin fit into all of this? Because that has started to actually happen. Is that somewhere you guys are actively looking? Because there's some pretty exciting things that we've seen on other chains really starting to gain some traction on Bitcoin.
Yeah, we are. We've made a couple investments around. I call it like BTC expressiveness. We can go down a technical rabbit hole that I'm probably not the best to defend every point on. There are some fundamental changes that the protocol has to make to like really unlock the through OpCat and stuff, that for it to really unlock what the design space is there. There's going to be Bitcoin. I'm on the camp of this is like an eternal asset, and so as a substrate for interesting things. Like we've been playing around with ordinals, runes, like all the stuff. It's just much easier to do the 0 to 1 experimentation on EVM, SVM, like the chains that have been designed from ground up for to be developer platforms, and port something over. I don't know if something like truly novel can come out of the way of Bitcoin Express, the way it's architected right now, but we'll keep our eyes on it.
Yeah, it's sort of like everything else is a test net for Bitcoin if it ever gets there, to be able to program it and to do it. There's some pretty exciting things happening in layer 2, but they remind me of the earlier, moments in other chains. I don't think it's there yet personally. And I know we only have a couple more minutes. With all of these chains, how do you see interoperability sort of developing? Like, you talk about UI, UX, and people being able to use it. Well, good luck bridging.
Right. Yeah. We have a lot of debates, and it can be like philosophical. Like, are you in this like infinite different blockchain L1 world? What's the reason for that? I think it's already progressed so far. Like, if you look at Superchain with OP and like things being are interoperable from the ground up, there's still too much friction. But I think a lot of it gets just solved on the UX side, and like the end user should not care what chain they're on.
You shouldn't know.
Yeah. You shouldn't know. You shouldn't know. Shouldn't care. There do need to be different chains that optimize for different things and different use cases. But we've seen a lot of the security issues and stuff around trying to solve it. It's a lot better now. It's not fully solved, but I think a lot of it is. And it's kind of, you look at Coinbase, right? Like, give that Web 2 experience in the front, abstract, like you don't need to know which chain you're on, or you're moving here, there, in the back. That's where I'm really excited about what the Coinbase product team is working on with stuff around base and wallet, is like continue to get this down to like, this is 2 clicks and done, not 15 clicks and you're bridging from here, there, and all that complexity. It's a trade-off between like giving the user like robustness and power, and like some users want to like have that level of fidelity. But then there's also the average user that, the Robinhood user, they don't care. They want to press 1 or 2 buttons and go.
Yeah, I don't think we reach full mainstream adoption if it's just the power users being focused on.
For sure.
It's still, even the sort of most compelling cases, sometimes if you even have to get a MetaMask wallet, we've already lost. You got to sign up and do the keys and get some ETH in there. That's not an easy process, even if once you get it in there, it is, right? So I think we're getting there. I agree with you. And I'm really thrilled to see everything you're building and obviously investing in, and the approach that you take, because we need more people who are thinking about what this is going to look like in 5 and 10 years, and less who are thinking about what meme coin is going to pop in the next 5 or 10 days.
Appreciate the kind words. And it's okay to have fun on the short-term stuff, but I get up every day thinking about what's the 10-year goal. We're not done until we've got billions of people on chain and trillions of assets on chain.
It'll happen. I appreciate you guys keeping your eye on the ball for us. Where can everybody keep up with everything you're doing and follow you after this conversation?
Yeah, at CB Ventures on Twitter, at Hoolie G, at CoinbaseVentures.com. We're out there. We're active, and if you're a founder, you're listening to this, and you're thinking about building long-term in crypto, we'd love to chat with you.
Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Scott.
That's dope.